Night broadcast brought to you by Varanormal. If you're in the United States, this weekend is Halloween. So if you observe that holiday, we have something very special for you today. Today we will be talking to Michael Lee, a Varanormal team member. He has created a piece of software that is free for you to be able to use on Windows computers. You're going to like what he has to say and what he has to share. We are Varanormal. We are a group of people who are passionate about communicating with spirit or communicating with people in spirit, aka ghosts, as some people refer to them as. Hello, Mark. Good to see you. At this point, we're going to go ahead and bring in Mr. Michael Lee. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Hey, Keith. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great.
So, what do you have for us
Yes.
today?
Yeah. So, a few weeks ago, you showcased the work coming out of Varanormal France, the Pearl and Noise stuff. And I actually had the honor of um, reviewing a paper written by the author of that program. He's been working with a medium. They did some experiments. Basically, what the paper said is we're able to get faces, we're able to get text from this Pearl and Noise. Of course, when we demonstrated, we showed you what it was doing in real time, and anybody can go to that website and check that out. So what I thought after reading that was, well, what if instead of using mathematically generated randomness, what if we use the randomness coming from our hardware devices? So the first thing I tried was my software-defined radio, and it actually works pretty well. Problem is, not many people have software-defined radios, and it's a little bit of a pain to get that set up on your computer. So the next thing I thought is, well, why not try a webcam? Everybody's got a webcam, and it's relatively easy then for me to then sit down and write a piece of software to take the source of the webcam and then do some of the same processing techniques that the original Pearl and Noise uses. And then we can see what happens. Do faces show up more frequently when we use camera noise? These are questions I was curious about. As I was making this thing, I said, this is one of the easiest programs for, I think, other people to try out and use because everybody has a webcam. So I went ahead and added a GUI, a graphical user interface, and we will look at it tonight. I made a video on YouTube, which we can go to if we have any issues, but we can go ahead and try to do it live. What do you think, Keith?
I think that's great. So, what you're basically saying is there's a piece of software anybody can download on the Varanormal site, plug in their webcam, and work with spirit faces right now. Is that right?
Yes. And
Sounds good to us.
we've only now got two other people besides me to download the program and run it, make sure it's working. So there still could be some bugs, but there's no reason why after we iron out these bugs, if there is any, everybody can start doing this
Okay,
and see for themselves what's going on.
sounds great. Take it
All
away.
right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my OBS program, which will share my my device. Okay, it will share my software. You can still hear me, which is good. All right. So what's going to happen is you won't see this on here, but you can imagine you download the zip file, you unzip the file into a directory, and then you go into the directory and you look for the exe file. And then you just double click on the exe file.
Hey, Michael, you can't see your screen at the
And
moment.
that should load up the program. Now you'll see the program pop up here because that is what OBS is sharing. But the nice thing about doing it this way is it takes up the full screen and we can start looking at some stuff. All right, so the same camera, I can select camera one. You may not see this on the thing here, so I'll explain it in words. At the very top of the program, there's a menu. There's one menu selection called device. you go to that and you select the camera number that you want to use. For most people, camera number 1 will be their webcam. For people that have lots of webcams and lots of strange virtual camera devices, they may have to search for it. At the bottom of the menu, which once again, you may not be able to see here, there's an option for pseudo-random. So if you want to basically just use random noise directly from your computer, you could do that too if you don't have a webcam. So I'm going to go ahead and select camera 1. You'll see on the bottom here that device camera 1 has been selected. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and there's 2 settings here for camera. This is while you're recording frames from the camera, these will affect things. So you can set the exposure, which is the amount of time the shutter's open. If you set it to -13, it's open for 100 microseconds, which is a really small amount of time. You set it to -1, it's open for a whole second. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to say -6, and it will depend on your webcam. Now on some webcams, there's an option for gain. I believe the Logitech camera that I'm using, which is a C920, does have a gain option. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to about middle of the road. I'm also going to basically turn off all the features of my program so that we can sort of see the frames as they're actually being collected. Okay, so I've set my threshold to 0 to 255, so it's picking up all the colors. I've turned off my filter. Let's go ahead and start collecting frames. I collected in black and white mode, or actually I would like to, but it's a little too late for that. There seems to be a little bug when I try collecting it in color mode. Okay, so right now it's collecting in black and white mode, and you can see me talking. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit pause. You'll notice that 107 frames have been selected, and this is my webcam, right? It's the same one that we used at the beginning of the show. Okay, so now let me show you what Spiricam is doing that's so interesting. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that if we take the difference between frames of video, instead of seeing me exactly, you're just going to see the difference between the current frame and the previous frame. Now on the bottom here, we can select an index and we can go through the different frames. Once again, I'm going to just turn that off for a second so you can see me talking here. Okay, so these are all the frames, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go back and take the difference between the current frame and the previous frame. So now when we go through here, we're going to see a lot of noise. So that's really good. Okay, so that's step 1, is we're seeing sort of the quick noise that's occurring versus just the image itself. Okay, now we're going to turn on our filter. Okay, so this filter once again is resembling the Perlin noise from a few weeks ago. We started off at an exponent of 0. It's almost like nothing's happening. Another thing we can do here is we can flatten the spectrum. So that further gets rid of the scene that the webcam is picking out, so that we're just emphasizing the noise in the image rather than the image itself. Because we don't, for example, if you're pointing the webcam at yourself, you don't want it to just see your own face. What you would like to see is the aura around you and what's popping up there. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn up the radial exponent to about 1.4. And you'll see what's happening is we're sort of like smearing out the noise. I'll go ahead and do that again. So we're starting with sort of the dusty noise. And then as we're increasing this filter, we're smearing out the noise. And what this is essentially doing is it's averaging the noise over different amounts of length and space. And then doing so, it's bringing out the details from the noise that we might not have been able to see if we just looked at the noise directly. We can adjust the exponent here. You can go really crazy with this, but for now, let's just set it to about -4.2. All right. Now, the only other thing that we need to do here before we really start getting in deep here is the threshold. So it turns out that when you apply this process, there's not much going on in the smallest value pixels. So we can go ahead and threshold a lot of the image and not lose too much and get a nicer contrast. Okay, so there we go. So now we are looking at the last frame minus the previous frame, applying all these filters, applying a little bit of stretching the contrast out, and we can begin now to go through each frame that we collected, and we can see what interesting things are in there. Now, I started it by pointing at me, which is an experiment you can do is point it at yourself, but you can also just point it at a blank screen or something. Okay, so already here, what I see here, and so this is another cool little feature I added, is you can center your frame. You can sort of move your frame around a little bit. And what I'm doing here, just for example, is I'm centering now a face that I see. I see some hair, I see two eyes, I see sort of a big nose, I see a mouth. All right, now I'm going to center it again and show you another face I see. Actually, this one sort of goes in and out, and I see a face below it. What I tend to find is that when faces come through in a particular frame, they come through, several faces come through. So what's happening is the spirits are trying to imprint really quickly as it's collecting frames. And so every once in a while, everything just hits right, and they're able to produce multiple things going on in that image. And I imagine that if anybody else starts using this program, they should get similar results as I am. Even though, yes, they work with me, they're going to certainly work with anybody that's using this program. And even if you're working with a different team, I imagine, and of course we're all imagining this stuff, but I imagine that your spirit team will get the necessary technology to start working with you of how they're interfacing our cameras. So let's just, so one other thing I wanted to show here, here's the same image, is you can click Save Frame, and now you've saved the frame on disk. When you exit this program, you're going to lose everything, but everything you saved will be saved in a folder. The snapshots will be saved in a snapshot folder. And the readme.txt file explains how you can change the place where the images are saved and stuff like that. Okay, so let's keep going through and scan for some more, go fishing, as I like to call it, for face images. Here I'm seeing, when we look for faces, our brain looks for, two eyes. So for example, I'll see like two eyes here, and then I'll look for a nose, this interesting looking spikes coming from their head. I will at times see things that are almost sort of grotesque looking or possibly satanic, but I don't really take anything too seriously, and you shouldn't either. What we're looking at is essentially an attempt for them to project an image through all the noise of the camera and everything. So it's not always gonna look perfect, and it's rarely are you gonna get a really clean looking image of a face or any clean looking thing. But what you're looking for are interesting features that come out of the smoke. Now, what you'll notice here is because we've used my my webcam, we're seeing a lot of features of me in there. I'm sorry, when we point the webcam at me, we're seeing a lot of features. So what we're going to go ahead and do here is I'm going to go ahead and collect a few more frames, but I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of paper in front of the thing and just collect some more frames. Now, when we put the piece of paper, there's a lot less physical features, and we can just focus on the sensor noise and any residual photons that might be hitting the image. And as you can see here, as it's collecting images, it's pretty noise-like. All right, I'll go ahead and take that piece of paper off in case I get it back on the camera again. But yeah, now these images are coming without any of the extra things of having to look at me. Now, there could be some benefits to pointing the camera at yourself. As I mentioned, you may be able to pick up images that are forming in your aura, but you obviously don't want to confuse that with the textures in the frame of your webcam. You really want to try to rule out where these textures are coming from. Okay, so for example, here what I see is a face turned a little bit into the screen. You see one eye, you see a little bit of other, you see sort of like a hole in nose, and then you see a mouth, and then you see this scale looking face, looks like scales. And then over here, I also see another face. Once again, the face is turned a little bit. You see two eyes, a nose, a mouth. Actually, I can center that. And what you can do then is frame your images so that the way you like it. By the way, here's a third face popping through, and then just go ahead and click Save. You can also inspect color. Color will work sometimes. It depends on your web camera, depends on the gain settings and the exposure settings, but sometimes the colors are pretty good. Also, you'll find that depending on which channel you choose, whether you use colors, you'll see other faces pop up, right? Because here now I'm seeing a face right here. I'm seeing like almost kind of like an animal face here, and then some other sort of human-like face over there. So you can take that same set of recorded images and spend a while just searching through and trying to understand what you're seeing. And you're looking for different things. You know, faces are the most obvious thing for our eyes to pick up, but it's very possible and what was shown in that paper that I mentioned at the beginning, that they're going to try to start sending us letters, characters, images of other things besides faces. And of course, there is, of course, the question of, is spirit actually involved, or is this our imagination? So those are other experiments to consider, is to what extent do you think that these images are coming from somewhere else, or are they just simply artifacts of how noise, when processed with a simple mathematical function, can sort of produce stringy-like images? I would argue that some of the stringiness is more mathematical in nature, but then again, I also believe that spirits can use those forms and build them into the images that they want to project. And just to clarify, I'm not using any machine learning or anything that would influence these images in any way. We are simply just trying to pull out the entropy or the noise coming from our webcam, and then processing it to look for features that are popping out from the statistics of the noise. So anyways, yeah, so when I see something like this, this really catches my eye. So notice how there's a lot of smoke here, but over here, the smoke seems to be sort of hardened a little bit. And I can kind of see like two eyes, and you see like this, almost like a puppet face. But to me, that I find that very interesting, because it's sort of, it means that the noise there has concentrated a little bit to produce that more solid looking structure. So it's really kind of fascinating to observe. And I encourage people to try out this program, and I'll and play around with it. Oh, there we go. Here's a face right here. Here's another face right here. As I said, sometimes when it rains, it pours with faces. Here's another vague sort of looking possible face here. Of course, the spirits are, well, what can we say? They know that they're performing tonight, so they better pop up some good images. But yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where, you know, this software and idea is about a month old. So you're getting a chance to play with some really, really early ideas. My attitude is I want as many people to just play around and try these ideas out and try to learn from them. So the last thing I'll say, and then I'll go back to talking with Keith about this, is so I've been working a lot with audio ITC, and I've done very, very little with video ITC or visual ITC. And what I find with visual is that it's helping us understand a little bit how spirits are able to sort of get through our electronics, because we can see it. When you do audio, it can get very confusing on your brain, because you're listening for words and stuff, and it can get overwhelming. But when you look at it, you can kind of sort of separate out the noise and just see where the imprints possibly are occurring. All right, I'm going to close it for now, and let's go ahead and talk, Keith, if you'd like.
Sounds good. Waiting for your camera to come back. There we go. So there's some technical things we can add. Thank you for that introduction, by the way. That was fantastic. So the first thing is you do not need to install the program. You download it. I just did it on my work computer, and I didn't get any alerts that I was being hacked. So if you get a message that it won't run with Windows Defender, you need to just right click on the executable. So you download it, you extract it, then you find the file in it that says .exe. It's got a little picture. I could probably show that here at the end. You need to right click on the executable, go to properties, and choose unblock. Okay, so it might be blocked from running. The other thing is, as Michael said, it won't be able to access your camera if you were using your camera for other things. So For example, right now, I could not demonstrate on this while my camera is in use by another program. Another thing is, Michael, where does it say the snapshots to? The same folder?
Well, right now, I think by default, it's saving it to a directory above the directory you extracted to a folder called snapshots. But you can go into a file called config.ini. So there's really three files, but yeah, one that are important in that directory. But config.ini, I could, yeah, it has a few settings, and you can put in a
Okay.
different folder. Of course, if people are interested, we could certainly try to add a folder specification option directly on the program, and because there's no reason why that can't change while you're running the program.
So was this compiled using Python or written using
Yes,
Python?
so this program was written in Python. I'm very comfortable with using Python, and Python has a ton of libraries, so it does all the math for you. Um, but Python is not the optimal framework for distributing code. This
Mm,
happens to work where I'm able to sort of turn it into an executable and then zip it up and send it to people. But my attempts at doing this with the audio code haven't been successful. Um, so if there's a lot of interest, and right now, I mean, the code is used by just me and Kevin. But if we, if more people start getting into it, and we can start thinking about perhaps writing it in a more formal language that's appropriate. And because right now it's gonna take up about a gigabyte of your computer to load it in, so that's a drawback. But that's the price you paid to be one of the first, right?
yep, no problem. So, some ideas for people when you use this. So, number one, you could put this. You point your camera into a box that has no light in it. You could point it at a wall. You can point it at a piece of paper, like Michael suggested. You could get a 3D model of a face that is expressionless, shall we say? Sort of like the anonymous mask. I would say that if you point it at yourself and you use it for transfiguration, it would be questionable as to whether it's actually transfiguration, right? But if you do use your face, your head in the picture, please take a snapshot before you start using the program, and then always show it with your spirit pictures as a comparison. So you- that would just be a
Yeah,
best practice.
yeah, and you'll find that sometimes you can get a transfiguration of your face.
Mm,
It'll give you a beard, or it'll remove your hair.
mm,
But you also find that the faces form right near your face.
mm.
Uh-oh.
People could also, I would suggest, highly suggest, they could also, let me look at my notes. It doesn't just have to be a plain surface. I intend to use some LED panels at different variations inside a box. You can also use it, point your camera at smoke, fog, steam, vapor, water, or dry ice. So in that case, you'd be sort of providing a palette in the background for the people in spirit to use. You'd be providing some variety.
That's right.
So, mm,
The what's probably happening right now is we're picking up the thermal noise of the sensor, of the image sensor. But if you use smoke, mist, vapor, stuff like that, then you will be able to look at how that is transformed. And it might, depending on the situation, it could improve the image, or it might not have as much effect. That's something we'll have to see. I know one that probably would work pretty well would be a TV screen, where there's a lot of high frequency noise.
yeah, I forgot that one. Um, just a TV screen turned to static or white noise.
Yeah,
There's all kinds of interesting ideas if you think about it. It could be everything from a lava lamp to, I mean, you could go for days. It could be, you could use an ant farm and put some type of liquid in it. I mean, but the essence is basically, so if anybody has any questions or challenges with the software program, where would you recommend that they reach out?
Um,
Place on
well,
the forum?
probably the best bet for now is to go to the forum, um, and you can message me. I'm Michael Lee on the forum, and it'll be right next where you're going to download it. You'll see my name, and you can click on that. You can also post uh, underneath the Spiricam post that I started, or if it's something, if it I don't know, if you think it's going to help with other people, you can start your own post, and I will and one of us will take a look at it and see if we can help you out. Because odds are, if you're getting a problem, other people are going to have a similar problem. So it's good to just make it public.
That's great. So it only runs on Windows computers, right?
Right. Yeah, I do have a Python version that I could share with people, that if they're familiar with the Con environment. I haven't tried it in Linux. So I guess for now, yeah, it's pretty much supported with Windows.
Okay, sounds good. So I was almost going to just try it out here, but since my the restream is holding my camera captive, that's all I had on that. Do we want to go ahead and actually? So we have a YouTube video. In the description of this video, wherever you're at, YouTube, Facebook, there are the links to download the program. There's the link where Michael wrote his post, and there should also be a link for his YouTube video. There might not be. I might have missed that. But I don't know if you want me to play the video or we can go ahead and close up.
Um, Let me think. Is there anything I didn't share on the? Yeah, no, I think what we have is pretty good. Uh, yeah, I mean, and as far as features, one feature that Keith asked for is, could we have something that could just play 24 hours a day? Have Keith point his camera at a fishbowl,
Yes,
and
please.
and then we could have that. So that's an option too. I like the idea though of people experimenting by themselves, and be able to select different settings.
Mhm.
And yeah, I really encourage people to share the results, and just uh, see what you get versus what I'm seeing. See if there's any difference. Uh, I think this is still early work, but it's but I think the spirit world is pretty excited. I think they are. I haven't heard from lately. I haven't had my stream on, but
I'm sure as we begin to collect pictures, now that basically anybody with a Windows computer and a webcam can do it, I am sure that we will see that becomes evident. All right, we're going to go ahead and button up now. Thank you, Michael Lee, for taking the time to do that, the time to explain it. And it's definitely awesome, I think. And it's perfect time to come out Halloween weekend. Be sure to visit our website, varanormal.com. Varanormal means to be normal. So if you believe that the paranormal, there's more to it than what you see on TV and in ghost shows, by all means, please join our forum. It's free. We have a team of people who spend their time volunteering and basically contributing so that we can provide these things to you and the information to you and the experiment methods. Please be sure to follow us on TikTok. We're about to tackle TikTok and it should get pretty interesting. We'll be sharing those videos on Facebook and YouTube also. They'll be short videos. And we will see you on the next stream. Thank you all for your support. Also, today is actually the 1 year anniversary of the Varanormal website starting. So we've been open for business, I guess you would say, for 1 year. We appreciate all of the volunteers and all the people that have provided their support. We thank all of you. I've actually been very supportive, which we're very grateful 4, I would like to thank all the volunteers on the team. I can name them, but I'd hate to miss somebody. So we have Karen Jarvie. We have Marie. I'll say B for her last name. She's the one that helps with the technical items on the stream as well as other things. We have Michael Lee, whose proficiencies are in artificial intelligence, software, and in some cases even hardware. We have Andres Ramos in Germany, who is very proficient in hardware, as well as he is now helping us administer the forum. So we thank you for volunteering to do that, Andres. We also have Fernando from Argentina, and we have no, I can't forget anybody. Thank you to Wagner, Michael Brandel, Steve, and Alberto for helping us with the graphics from Mexico, which we are now starting to come up to speed. Who did I miss? Oh, I said Karen first. Rita. Thank you, Christine, for your support. We're a very close knit family, actually, and everybody here has, in one way or another, shown their support. We are still working on the nonprofit incorporation. We hit a couple snags, but now that we have things moving along smoothly, we should be able to accomplish that very soon. Again, we are Varanormal. We experiment and we share information and we create new ways to experiment that have not yet been done before. We have not even cracked open the can of what we really do in the background. We've only given small taste. And thank you for being you. We will see you during the next live broadcast. Brought to you by Varanormal, where paranormal is normal. Thank you and good night. And we look forward to seeing your Spiricam pictures. Please feel free to share with your friends. I know I'm going to be sharing some pictures here pretty soon. Thank you and have a good